Okay, I'm just relaunching my stream as I had a pretty messy start. One moment, I just need to share this link. Okay, link is shared on Twitter. All right, so the problem we are trying to solve today is this one. We have that right there is a React Native macOS app, and we have the Xcode project that's driving it. And somewhere on one of my screens, we have a terminal. There we go. This is the Metro bundler. And when you open a React Native macOS app and it tries to connect to Metro bundler, for the first time, what happens is this little dev loading view spawns. And it's supposed to say like a progress, like progress 0%, progress 50%, like bundling progress. But for one thing, it doesn't say that. And for another thing, every second after showing itself, it hides itself. And it does that in a loop, showing and hiding. And as you can see here, it spawns loads of NS windows. And the NS window doesn't even contain the text that we want it to contain, the bundling 50% or whatever. So there's a bunch to unpack here and need to get to the bottom of it. So let's see. Just a bit unclear why YouTube is saying I have a chat, but there's nothing showing up in the chat box. I've also got 0 viewers, so I don't understand why I can have a chat, but testing. Let's just write testing. All right, well, whatever. Let's just assume everything's fine. So here I am in the UI debugger, and I have confirmed there is no text inside this view. So let's get out of UI debugging mode. Actually, hierarchy. So the main window, you might call it, I don't know if it's correct to call it a key window, but anyway, this big old window here is this one, and then all these others are windows that haven't been released. So let's just step over. I need to get out of this view. So I was probably on that line there or so. Let's just play it out and see how things are supposed to proceed. We've clearly stopped somewhere, but Xcode hasn't caught up yet. Come on. Why isn't Xcode jumping to the line? It's not very happy, is it? Play. Right, so that's the kind of thing I was talking about. It keeps repeating itself, but Xcode is not helping me out here. It's not breaking on any lines. So I want to understand what line is it hitting? And why can't we get out of view debugging mode? This is a surprise. I kind of feel like we're going to have to start again because I think Xcode debugging is kind of breaking. Right, you know what? I am confused. Let's stop that. And then you get to see how this all works from the start. So we're going to do a fresh Metro bundle. And we're going to do my favorite command, which is going to product. And instead of doing the usual product run, you can do a build for, is that the one? I don't think it is. If you do Control Apple R, it will just kick off a new run with the debugger attached without rebuilding it. And that's super, super good for Yeah, there you go. Run without building. That's what I'm talking about. Super good for starting from the beginning in with a debugger text. So we shall run with a debugger text, and bada bam, we have jumped straight into this hide method, and we know it's enabled. What's that all about? So this is a method I'm not familiar with yet. Let's just have a breakpoint inside our dispatch block. Let's climb inside here. Okay, so it's kind of like a cancel timeout, but there is no initial method block, so that's fine. We'll play forward. So it's gone and dispatched this thing, but it hasn't gone immediately into here because there was another hide message, or another call to hide that got called before the UI thread got to have its turn again. Jamon, hey! Good to have you, and good to confirm the YouTube chat is working. So maybe as you've just joined, I'll just show what the problem is that we're trying to solve. So if I deactivate the breakpoints and I just play through, we'll get the and you'll see this happens every time you run React Native macOS, latest version of React Native macOS, and connect it to the Metro bundler for the first time. Code is 3 pixels tall. That is fair. Now the thing is, there is a balance between making things readable for the audience and making me actually able to function. Look at this thing. Like, it keeps going. Hello, our lost. That is very inaccessible text, but I remember you from last time. Good to have you back. Right, so that's all those spawns and despawns of that central window. I think that's supposed to be showing the bundle progress, and we can prove that. So if we actually put breakpoints on, just out of interest, we will have breakpoints off and we'll relaunch right now. Okay, so you're liking bigger text. I don't think we can go much bigger without me being able to function. Surely that's good. Surely that's a good start. All right, I'm going to relaunch. Bada bing. And look how carefree this launch is going to be. One bump. And just to show the hypothesis, now we start a fresh thingy, rebuild, and then so this is the thing I want to solve. And this isn't a good for anyone. And I suspect the fact that we have got beach ball means that this is actually going on longer than it has to, because there is some UI thread blocking. The thing that this thing is waiting for is for the Metro bundler to reach 100%. And I refuse to believe that it takes, 30 seconds to read in the whole Metro bundle? So I think the mere fact that it's blocking the UI thread is only contributing to the issue. And just to follow this through and let everyone see how it all works, I'm going to take off that hide breakpoint. Where's my breakpoint gone? Where is hide? Hide. That's the one. Let's disable all these. Sounds logical from Jamon, yeah. So we're going to be looking at just the calls that come into this show message block. And we're going to have another debug breakpoint on, I thought there's a dispatch. Where's it? Yeah. When we come into this dispatch. So stopping there, restart server. And then, as I said, my favorite thingy, where was it? Run without building. Nice quick relaunch. Right, so the window hasn't even come up yet. Let's hover over message, and the message that this little loading view wants to show is bundling 0%. And I play it through, and we don't even reach the UI thread dispatch yet. Instead, we've got the other message in the queue, which is bundling 100%, which is interesting. And what we can even do for funsies is we can even put breakpoint logs on this. So edit breakpoint, add action, log message. And I always have to look up how to do this, but in theory, you can even get it to speak. I do that sometimes. But yeah, you can get it to log out here what the message is. Now, I don't know, maybe we just do that. So edit breakpoint, like, do enable. How can I tell it to not stop here? Action is log message. Well, let's see how this goes. And we'll play through again. And you see, we hit this show message block all over again. Again, we still haven't gone back to the UI thread. We're still handling messages on the JS thread. And what's this new message? It's bundling 50%. So we have the strangest thing. We get bundle 0%, bundling 50%, and then bundling 100%. Sorry, bundle 0%, then bundle 100%, and then we regress back to 50%, which can't be good, for one thing. And we're still not even to the point where we're doing our UI work. So play through, and we get another message. It's regressed back to 33%. 25%. So these messages are coming in reverse order, and then it's going forward to 50%. So I almost wonder if it's like as Metro as it walks through index.js and it imports extra modules into its graph, it's like I've done 3 out of 5, and then it discovers like 10 more. It's like, okay, actually I've done 3 out of 15. And so that's how it can regress, just like the Windows progress bar. All right, we're really not coming into this dispatch async block, and I need to fix that. So this is clearly not the right way to log out a message. So we're going to have to learn log message. What is it? Is it at message? Is that how you do it? We'll find out. Ooh, at. There's like C string. I always look this up. This is embarrassing. Well, it's not really embarrassing. It's pretty deep stuff. Xcode, how to log message on breakpoint. Let's figure out how to do that. NSLog is one way to do it. Yeah, we could just do it as a debug command. So let's just edit that. I've never managed to get log message working, but debug command is the coward's way out. So we are going to log out message. It's going to be message from Metro is that thing. Okay, press enter, and then hopefully in this panel here, next time we run through it, we'll get nslog is not a valid command. That is strange. ¿Por qué? Oh, we need to PO. It didn't like that. Why isn't that working? All right, have I still written that wrong? So POs clearly does some kind of LLDB thingy. How about we do that instead? Create a breakpoint log message action or a debugger command. All right, log message looks really weird. I think I understand this a bit better. No. What are all these like comments? Hold up. Let's get my favorite text editor up. We shall have action debugger command, string of format, bundler message is, and we'll have message. Okay, next time that should work. Come on, how hard is this? It's because you're writing blind. Oh yeah, maybe there's a different way to do it in Objective-C. How do you do this then? PO, debugger command. I swear I'm doing that. Alternatively, we try the log message. Exactly, yeah. All right. So I've got no idea what the rules are here, but we'll have a char star of our NS string, which is going to be message. Something like that. Bundler message is. Come on. Will this one work? Yeah! All right. There you go. Every time I come back to this Stack Overflow thread, because I have seen this, I have come back here so many times. I always go through this journey of working from top to bottom, and every single one of these doesn't work until I finally get to this weird one. And then now we can just click. I didn't want it to stop there though. So I want it enabled. Automatically continue, and we can either speak out the message, which is fun as a party trick, but you won't hear that on your side because I'm not capturing audio. But there we go. Let's look at that. Isn't that fun? So now we can see the bundling go up until finally, once it gets close to 100%, we get off the JS thread and onto our first dispatch. And while we're on this dispatch, we can check for closure and see, well, what's the value of message? It is cool. I do think debugging skills are super important. Like debug logs are really cool, and they're so much more powerful than console logs because you can change your mind about whether you want to stop on the code. And I wish it was more widely like a celebrated skill rather than like breakpoint debugging is a bit of a meme where people go, most people do console log based debugging, and even Linus Torvalds has words to say about breakpoint debugging. But here we go. So we've finally gone off the JS thread and onto the UI thread, and we're finally servicing the very first one all the way back from before our history. And we need to handle this bundling 0% message, even though the latest one is bundling 99%. So ideally, we need a way to cancel these dispatches if they're no longer relevant. But there is a question like, how do you want to do that? Because you can, if it's like climbing up by, for example, 0.1% each time. Well, actually, this thing doesn't go up in decimals, but if it's climbing up by 1% each time and you have like 100 messages in a row, and every new message that's coming in is invalidating the next one, you'll be, if you say, Yeah, deep bounce throttle. For example, I think that would be reasonable. So, like, have a sort of boat that waits every 500 milliseconds or something. And if you don't make that 500 millisecond boat, you got to wait for the next one, for example. Or we could even say, we could even do it based on the percent value. Say we're interested in increments this big. But yeah. All right, well, let's learn what we can before diving into a code-based solution, because if this were TypeScript, I would just jump straight in there and start poking things. But Objective-C is not, it's not the nicest code to write. So I want to have a proper plan of what I'm doing first. All right, so let's actually see what we can learn while we're here. So we play, or actually maybe we step around. And I want to know, has self window even been assigned to yet? So we can add an expression here, self window, and it's nil. Okay. Now, who is self? Self is RCTDevLoadingView. And we saw from the previous debug session, thank you, Half-Blood Prince. Yeah, so at the very start of the stream, I was introducing a problem, which is this dev loading view keeps showing and hiding for the first like 30 seconds of the app's life. And you're basically looking at a mostly white screen, even though bundling is complete. So there's clearly something that's not right in here. And I'm trying to figure out what is right and what is wrong inside this system and figure out which things to keep and which things need adjusting. And then by the end of it, we should have a bundling this much percent, and it will be showing in the middle of your main React Native macOS window diligently, as without blocking the UI thread, ideally. Jamon's saying, another option is to update a local variable and send a regular update every n milliseconds if it's changed since the last update. Let's see. There is a question of which thread we're talking about. So when I was first thinking about this in my head, I was thinking like it would be really nice if we could actually, instead of capturing this message into this dispatch block and for it to be stale, it would be super nice if the mere fact that we receive a message at all says you ought to update the UI now. But when we go to update the UI, we don't want to use the stale value. All we know is it's about time to update the UI, and we should actually refetch the latest value or message. Now, I'm not experienced enough with threading to know, can you have like the latest count, the latest percent progress, and have that be zero cost accessible from as read-only rather than writable from this thread, because that would be perfect. That is the point at which I might be tempted to talk it through with ChatGPT. Now, I'll say my policy with ChatGPT is figure out what you want first before asking it, rather than taking your hands off the wheel. So let me just get myself a fresh ChatGPT window. Because if you don't come up with ideas for yourself, you'll never learn the vital skills of proper debugging. So in Objective-C, is there a way to access a value from another thread without blocking the current thread? Let's say the JS thread. save it, UI thread, main thread. Let's see what it has to say about that. Now, I think this is, I kind of feel like you've either got a lock or not, but whatever. Let's see what it has to say. Immutable is fine because we want read-only from the UI thread. We want read-only access. Non-blocking is fine. You cannot safely read mutable shared state, but it's not mutable, so that's fine. Okay. Something synchronization. Use atomics for lock-free access. Lock-free access sounds good because we don't want to lock. So we've got, I think this is getting a bit distracted. Accept blocking. No, I don't want to accept blocking. All right, so I'm most interested in number 2 here. From the start, I said I want to share an immutable object. All right, so how do we do this? We can just read it. All right, if that's how it works. Let's just see what that does. All right. Right, nothing at all. So the idea is we write to it from the JS thread. And when we're on the main thread, we only ever read. And as long as we keep that contract, we don't need weird like locks and semaphores and that kind of thing. But let's read the atomic section just to see what that's all about, so we learn a little something while we have a concrete problem to solve. If you need to change a pointer size value, the JS thread, and read it from the main thread, it's not pointer sized. I don't fully know what it's referring to there. Our NS strings are ARC compatible, but so in theory, we could. The message that's saying bundling 0% has 2 parts to it. One is it is an NS string, but the other thing is it is trying to convey a percentage value. So we could treat this as either an integer or a float, a progress value, or just the string itself. Whatever works best for us. But let's treat it as an NS strings to do the least change solution to the existing code. So this is reading on the main thread, non-blocking. Yeah. Well, this seems quite idiomatic. It kind of makes the... I kind of like this. I mean, obviously, the first option of just assigning seems quite simple as possible. But I like the explicitness here of the contract of who's doing what. You make it just very clear. So let's just bring in this atomic. And this is one thing I really wish. I think in the JS ecosystem, you have linters and formatters as a matter of course, but in the native ecosystem, only big projects have got things like Clang format set up, and even ones like React Native macOS that have Clang format, you need to go digging around to figure out like how do I make it run that Clang formatting. So right here in Xcode, like you can apply indentation on save if you really want, but to actually invoke Clang format, they don't make it easy. You need like to install an extension to Xcode for that, and then you need to point at the Clang format settings and binary. Alright, so let's do this. We've just shoved that import in, and we're going to have an atomic which doesn't need to be exposed to a header. We'll just be using it inside here. And let's put it quite close to, actually, to the init. Now, bear in mind, I don't live and breathe Objective-C. Where do properties go? Do I just put it here? Compiler's not complaining. We'll see if that's right. Jamon, if you know. But all the other ones that are here, let's put it up there. Why not? What did that do? That is not complaining either, so that's fine. Okay, so atomic. Can I do an atomic from an inner string star? Latest message. Yes, maybe. See how that goes. And then each time a message comes in, oh, look at that. It's got its own initial message thingy. I've not actually stepped into this thing, but whatever. What we could do is just do that just as... Which way around is this? Docs, please. Right, the latest value is going to be message, and we're storing that into self dot... what do we call our thing? Latest message. Okay. Now in Swift, you can just write latest message and it will get it. It will know it belongs to self, but do I have to do an explicit self? Selfie self? Right, so I think it is implicit. Yeah, in Objective-C. Must be appointed to an atomic type. Right? Now, I have not read anything about atomics, so I don't know. I don't understand why an ID would be atomic, which in ID, of course, means any NS object, the base thing at the bottom of the type system Objective-C. How come that ID gets to be atomic, but NS string doesn't? Because NS string star is an extension of ID. So, that's curious. Well, let's see what the suggestion is. Oh, it's just because the arguments are the wrong order? Well, I was asking what the order should be. Go, go, go. All right. Well, if only the docs would have loaded, I would have got that right first try. Thank you very much. Xcode and SourceKit. Never change. Right. So we're storing latest message into here, and we want to take it out later. We will go into that dispatch block. Dispatch, where is that thing? Where is that thing? Here we are. And we're going to load, what did I call my things? Latest message, and that's actually going to be NS string star. Right. I kind of want to call it latest message here as well. Can I just shadow this variable? So if I call this latest message in the local scope, and then maybe explicitly call that like self.latest message, self. I'll learn these things one day. And then if I'm doing that here, I might as well do that there. Mwah. Okie dokie. So now I want to just log that out and see what we learn. So I've got my existing log breakpoint over, where exactly? Where was it? Here. All right, edit that breakpoint. Look how generous they are with the text field. Let me just break out into Sublime Text because I just can't work with that. Right. For the benefit of everyone. bundler message is char message. Right. Captured message versus latest message is going to be self-message, latest message. So that message is the param we're taking into our closure. Closure is the wrong word. Block is, hang on, what does dispatch takes? Not a block, but a, all right, they call them blocks even if it's a C block. That's fine. Latest, where are you hiding? Latest message, all right. It's this one. Edit. And I will put apostrophes around it. Not apostrophes, speech marks. Quotation marks, whatever you'd like to call them. Right, recompile. And, oh, actually, no, because, well, while we're here, we might as well let it finish recompiling. So the issue only reproduces on a fresh, when you're starting with a cold bundle cache. So, do a bit of that. And now we've done the build, just so everyone knows. No need to compile again, run without building. My favorite trick in Xcode. Okie dokie. I don't feel like those are any different. Those are exactly the same all the way down. So have we done something wrong? Latest message. I feel like we've set something up wrong here. That's fine. We'll get to the bottom of it. So, atomic. In the show message block. So here, we store that into latest message. Okay. And then on the main thread, we capture latest message. We retrieve latest message on the new thread. Oh, right, I'm doing this the wrong way around. Hold up. That breakpoint needs to be here, I think. Something like that. Right, rerun. Oh, with a fresh bundler. Right, that was probably a bad race. Right, go. Rerun. That's interesting. Go back further. You see how the message has gone from bundling 100% to downloading 100%. And I suspect that it goes like bundling 0 to 100%, and then it gets past that phase. And it's like now Metro's bundled everything. We're moving on to the download step. So that's already very cool. It goes to show how quickly Metro goes from. You're going to dismiss? You're going to hide at some point? Metro can actually be ready and bundled. So it goes to show that by the time the UI thread is called for the first time, the whole bundle has been bundled and is ready to, not only ready to be downloaded, but by the time we switch over from the JS thread to the UI thread, the whole thing is downloaded into memory. That's pretty cool. Right, so that's interesting. But now what do we do with that? that kind of tells us I'm also curious, would this have, this is just a learning experience now, actually. I'm also curious, did we need to do any of that atomic stuff? What would have happened if I had just had a latest message, dumb, simple way, no need for atomics, and just see what happens if we write to latest message without using atomics at all. We do self.latest message done equals message. And then over here, sorry. Then over here, we do a ns string latest message done equals set the latest message. And then we will log that out. So it turns out those quotation marks are actually redundant. So let's take that away. Do we have a versus? Yeah. Versus latest message done. Okay. Now we're going to see, were atomics important in the first place? Start it up. Rerun. We've actually hit a new breakpoint that we weren't using before. Let's just ignore that. And latest message done hasn't been written to yet, unless I got that wrong. Which is interesting. Why might that be? We were asking for the UTF-8 string out of it. How about we use the one that we captured into the closure already? Let's give that a go. So, close it down, quit that, run again. That is very strange. I'm glad we tried out atomics. I wonder what I'm missing. Well, I never. Okay, atomics helped. Fine, we go with atomics. Maybe a code reviewer will see this and scream and go like, why did you bother with atomics? They totally weren't needed. But I'm sure I just got something wrong. I'm sure. Because I was not expecting it to be completely unassigned to. That doesn't make any sense. I expected either that there'd be some exception saying NS string is not thread safe or something like that. Yeah, so fine, the atomic stay. Right, so just to reduce the amount of bouncy, one thing we can do is say if the view, if you've already got a window that's showing an NS text view that already has the exact text you're planning to present, then just bail out right now and don't bother initializing a new NS window. be all right. It would just be nice. It would be nice to avoid dispatching at all. Is there any way we could do that? For example, could we have two atomic stores? One where the main thread has write access, and one where the JS thread has write access. And the main thread through that store lets the JS thread know what it's done so far. And if the main thread has already represented something that is effectively further along what the JS thread is planning to represent, we could avoid dispatching altogether, which sounds very bueno. It just feels a bit strange to have two atomics in one in each direction. But it's the idea that makes most sense to me in my head. So I don't know whether what we get done on stream is going to be the final thing I end up committing, but it's a hypothesis we can work on immediately. So why not? Right. So JS thread writes. Can we do this as a dot comment? Yeah. JS thread writes. Main thread reads. JS thread reads. Main thread writes. Now, what do I want to call this thing? Latest message shown. Latest message. Right. Something like that. Jamar, I am honored that you are. What's the word? Damn it! It's got a Japanese word stuck in my head. Sabotteru. You're kind of skipping out. You're skipping out on basketball for my nerd ass stream. What are you saying? This stuff I'm pretty rusted on. Did a fair amount over a decade ago, so it's somewhat familiar, but I'm not entirely sure about it. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's great. There's no one to judge me, so we're gonna vibe it with minimal AI. Latest message received. Yeah, I like showing the sort of received thing, so you understand the directionality of this stuff. Excellent. All right, now we're cooking. Blazers. Now that is the name of a team. I can stop printing out latest message dumb now. Right. Self latest message received. I just macOS Apple have such a penchant when making AppKit apps to give you just one line to write what is very obviously going to be a multi-line purpose thing. Okay, so we've now got latest message received in there. And the plan was, over here, we would do a latest message shown. Shown is going to be latest message shown. So we're on the JS thread, we're going to read latest message shown, and it is the responsibility of the UI thread to say what the latest thing it has actually shown. So atomic something else, it's going to be, actually it's going to be a write. How do we do that before? Atomic something, where you're hiding, atomic store. The opposite of load is store. So we are gonna show. It's gonna be. Is this gonna be? Yeah. So the latest message we receive at this moment is what we're saying. What we've got round to storing. Cool. Why not? And then the final coup de grace will be, it's coup de grace, it's coup d'etat. I don't know, in French when you like pronounce, I'm very bad with the ends of French words because sometimes they pronounce the things and sometimes they don't. Right. So so the issue here is if the message were just like the progress number, it would be easy to say, is this number above or below? But unfortunately, we have at least two kinds of message. We've got the bundling and the downloading. So we actually need to parse out that number if we want to say, well, that thing's further along, so don't bother representing it. I'm almost wondering, because there's no guarantee that Metro can't like go back on itself and regress, maybe instead of storing the exact message, what we want to store is the timestamp of what we've represented so far. And as Jamon was saying, do a sort of, what's the word? Throttling / debouncing, whereby we say, with a threshold of like 500 milliseconds or something, like, if the main thread has already represented something that within the last 500 milliseconds, don't bother dispatching an update. But I can see problems with that as well, because that means you will always lose the last 500 milliseconds of updates. Well, it might just be interesting just to see it in action, just to do it. The thing is, we would then need to write something to parse out the progress number. Oh, Jamon's saying something. Maybe Jamon has the answer. I want to. Jamon is not only watching basketball, but refactoring in the middle of it. That is powerful stuff. Right, so Jamon's suggesting receive one, fire it, then accrue any updates until 500 milliseconds has elapsed, then send the last update. Well, certainly that will reduce the amount of dispatches we end up doing. But thinking of the true problem here, I think the problem isn't the core problem. There's a few core problems, but the core problem isn't just that we're writing a stale value and we're sending off messages that we're no longer interested in. That's the thing. So Jamon's saying, is reducing dispatches enough? And I think it can only help. Like, obviously, less thread hopping is nothing but a good thing. But the thing that's probably really doing the damage is we keep allocating new NS windows for each progress update, which is crazy. It's a very heavy way to update a text field. So, in terms of like gold coin, silver coin, copper coin of what we can do to improve the situation, very much a gold coin is if you've got an NS window already, please reuse it. So I think it's nice to have. Exactly, yeah. If it's nice to have these atomics for debug purposes, and maybe we will find something to do with them later. But let's keep our eyes on solving the actual thing we come here to solve, which is the UI thread getting blocked, loads of NS windows getting spawned and never released, and never detached from the view hierarchy. Although actually, NS window doesn't have a hierarchy to jam into anyway. But yeah, so as I don't fully know rules here of when a window gets created, when can we expect it to get removed and released? Because you saw one of the problems is show message gets called a bunch of times, but it's only right at the very end, once we've reached like the final one, that even the first hide method gets called. So that's going to be part of the problem as well. And I'm actually interested, because these are RCT export methods. We can actually see who's calling all this, and that might be quite interesting as well. Show message is called as an instance method, not as an RCT method. So hide is actually something that's getting called from the React Native app, React Native JS context. That is a bit of a strange asymmetry. But then I do also see that they've wrapped around the show message thing here. Okay, fair enough. I think it would make more sense if hide were like a private method that had a wrapper around it. So it'd be like symmetrical with this, but whatever. Fine. Okay. Okie dokie. Right, I think the cold is getting through, so I'll close those curtains. Or as Batman says, the heat goes out. A bit of window, enough. Okay. Hydrate. So, in the hide method, I would expect to see a window getting cleaned up. Now, whether or not this implementation is correct, the problem is it's not being called. So I think last time I was debugging here, RCT window might even have been nil. So, I mean, yeah, we're setting window to nil. But let's not lose sight of the fact that hide isn't getting called until like 100 show messages have been called. So we'll come back to that later. I'm sure there's stuff we can do for that. Okay. Show message. First order of business. Check if you've already got a window. If self window does not equal nil, and I think in Objective-C can you just do that? I think maybe you can. Let's just ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT very good for dumb questions. Is this equivalent? Objective-C. Now, of course, Objective-C has got 3 different kinds of nil. 4 actually. Well, it's got plenty. So, right, fine. If it's truthy, hold on. How about we'll capture window into a variable as long as we're not using it further down here. This we're going to have to look at a bit closely later. I've got no idea what to expect. Now, I know one of the things that has made this so hard to get right is React Native macOS apps are multi-window or are potentially multi-window, whereas this whole thing is a fork of React Native for iOS, which has made some very hard assumptions on one app, one window, one key window, one main window. They're all the same. Whereas with macOS, all of that gets proved wrong. So partially they're dealing with the limitations of the original code. So ns window start. Well, we can treat ourselves to no underline. Why not? Equals. I think you can do this in Objective-C, can you not? Tell me if I'm wrong. Am I right? Am I right? I think you can. But quite honestly, I don't like it because if it is nil, we're also going to have to attach it to something. I'm sure there's, yeah, we've got to do other stuff. So, okay, so if you've got one, just look at this. So if you don't have a window yet, we shall assign got that. Window equals that. Self window equals window. And then we work from here on downwards. We're going to work just on window. Don't you worry, I'll give you that. If you do have a window, oh great, we can simplify this. If you don't have one of those, you're good to go. Sweet. Okay. Now we're going to have to figure out how to reuse all these things, which is the container view and the label. Now, one problem we did have, which I am looking forward to solving, is I found when I was doing a debug of the view that this label and an RCT UI label is a NS text view, by the way. That was nowhere to be seen. It was just an empty NS window. So we're going to have to get to the bottom of, okay, what's going on there? We've initialized the label, but we haven't added it into the view. Now, you'd expect that this line does the honors there. Do we ever add the container into the window? We do not. That's a bug fix right there. Let's say window, add subview, sub window, window dot. Oh, hold up. We've got that. And I know when you actually get content view controller.view, it actually it's a lazy getter and it populates the view with an S view. So that should be fine. So code-wise, I can't explain why the label didn't make it in there. Okay, but for one thing, let's reuse that window. Now, what we don't know is whether the window has been closed or anything. That's one thing that we simply haven't accounted for yet. Now, let's handle all these other code paths. So, because we need to make sure we don't break support for iOS at the same time. So they have this thing they called U. So on iOS, they got UI window. And in the iOS code, they like just assigning, like mutating directly self window, but in the macOS code, we want to reuse our window. What can we do here? I mean, the coward's way out for the least code change would be to get rid of the old window and just always create a new one. But let's try not to be a coward. I'm just trying to think, like ideally you'd have something like this here, like an RCT window. But do they have such a thing, RCT window? Yeah, they didn't invent it. Oh, I need to import a right header. So there is no environment agnostic way to refer to window. But fine, okay. Let's do window then. And then this is all iOS. And then I don't know all about this key window stuff. Let's change that to window. Change that to window. And then finally change that to... Now that's interesting, that the completion handler could actually end up acting on... There could be a stale reference problem here, because it's always going to close the latest window. But actually we're trying to make it so that those are kind of one and the same. So I think there's not much in it. We're going to begin sheet on the window we've just got a reference to. And then the completion handler, we're going to tell that one to remove itself from the screen list. Okay. Do we technically want that to be the window we've referenced right here? I think we might as well make it symmetrical, because this is the macOS block. Okay. As long as we don't mutate window from anywhere else, we don't have to really worry about those two diverging, so that's fine. And then we only set the identifier there. That's fine. Maybe we do. It feels a bit nicer to do it like that. Like fully initialize your thing and then set it. It's my preference. All right, fine. Time 2. Close down the dev server. Start it up again. Recompile. And what we're hoping to see is no longer have like 100 NS windows in our view hierarchy. Interesting, it's stuck on bundling 92% for a while there. That almost suggests... because that didn't climb up. I really worry about... it doesn't feel like we... yeah, our atomics are not quite matching my expectations. But yeah, we got that fun 0 to 100% and back, and then a bit of jittering before finally it's climbed the module graph. All right, fine. So what we wanted to see was the view hierarchy. Look at that, one single NS window. That's already a good start. Very, very good. Let's stop this. And before we do any hides, let's just make sure that along the way we don't have any wasted window. Hey, why isn't it stopping? All right, fine. So I'd expect to see one, maybe two. Yeah, two NS windows. So we've got the little one there. We've got the big one here. Great. We fixed a bug. Sweet, 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 sweet. So that will surely be helping. And now I'm interested to close down the dev server, open it up again, turn off all breakpoints, and just see what the change in performance is now. To see if now that we're no longer spawning NS windows, has anything improved? See where it goes. Don't tell me. What? What? No, that can't be it. That can't be it. It can't be that easy. It cannot be that easy. That's a lot better. NS windows are expensive. Oh boy. Now, if I had this under source control, like I would be committing this. It's funny. We haven't yet even had to touch our atomics yet. Yeah, boom. It's well. I don't think we're done yet, but this is super, super good. So what? Yeah, thank you very much. I think the thing is, reusing a window. I have handled the happy path here. We've not come across a case yet where we have a window hide. Drag the entire jungle in with a banana. That's a nice one. But what I was thinking is, there must be a reason. Like at some point, that window is going to get nilled in the hide, for example. Like this stuff I've not even looked at yet. So, and the thing I need to read what key window is actually talking about. Let's explain to me the difference between main window, key window, I think there's focus window as well, etc. in AppKit. Okay, so key window is the focused window. Window becomes key if it is visible, is not a panel excluded from becoming a key, or it just says, oh, I want to be the key window from now on. They have an active focus ring, so they're not, well, oh, yes, somewhere, like for example here, that's a very poor, there should be a proper focus ring. Anyway, moving on. Main window. Right. So this thing looks for the key window rather than main window. Now, in React Native macOS apps, some of the time they are brownfield. And so it's actually incorrect. When you're choosing that like show message, the bundling progress message, when you're choosing where to show that, if you're working in Microsoft Office, the main window might be your main document view. Oh, sad. I don't know when you just came. Sad, did you catch the bit where we fixed a thing, which was we're now reusing this window rather than reallocating and initializing a NS window on every single cycle. And that has resulted in a huge... Yeah, let me show you the results. So I'll show you before and after as you've just come along. So we'll close down the bundler and let's just we'll get rid of this change, and that's going to be equivalent to what we had. I think that's now equivalent. So what was happening before was this NS window is getting unconditionally allocated and initialized every single time. And what that looked like in practice is if we start up the bundler and we tell it to recompile this time, we'll see the symptoms and it does this thing. And you see the messages are something about make key window. And you'll see it's incrementing the window number each time, and the NS window pointer is a higher number unless the memory refragments. And then eventually we get to the end of that. But it really takes a long time, as you can see. And actually, if I checked out the view hierarchy right now, check it out. Look how many NS windows we got. There's so many in here. And our memory usage is probably... I'm on 0.7. That's a question and a half. What version am I on? Oh, I'm not even on 0.1. I'm on 0.79.0. I'd hate to be fixing the wrong version. I'd just wait for Saad's opinion on 0.79.0. I'll just hide that away then. So yeah, loads and loads of windows, and we play it again. And eventually it shows. And we did actually have some debug breakpoints that were showing... I'm actually curious, was it even finished bundling by the time it reached that point? So if I get this thing, if I now re-enable this logging breakpoint, hang on, disable all the breakpoints. I'm going to do what I want. Yep, they're all disabled. I'm just going to repeat our last test so that we can see the... Okay, Saad reckons he may have got here first. Let's React Native macOS. So the file we're in is React Core Modules, RCTDevLoadingView. macOS, what do they call it? It's this, is it not? React Native is the name of the React Native macOS package. Yes. React Common, was it? No. Core Modules. RCTDevLoadingView.mm. And we've got, let's check for allocations. Aha, no. Right. So the fix I'm making here is still relevant as of 0.79.1. And if I change onto a more recent version like main, look, it's still relevant. We're solving a problem. Okie dokie. So I just wanted to repeat this test so that we can see. That's a yay. Yeah, okay. I want to show you the debug logs. So as this thing bounces in and out of existence, actually the bundle has already been fully downloaded by now. But this latest message received thing, I am not entirely sure about it. This thing never updates. So, but certainly that thing on the left, the caption message, you'd have thought that this thing bouncing would correlate with like where we are actually in the code execution. I don't know if it's just catching up with all the window allocations, but if I shove it's this thing happening right here has got nothing to do with having received a bundle message, and it's nothing to do with this. It's just maybe the hysteresis of allocating all those NS windows. Yeah, good luck going back through this stream. It's not been it's not been like a crystalline distillation of bam, 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 bam. We solved this. We solved this. It's been a bit meandering. All right, but yeah, now that we caught you up, we'll show the chef's kiss result of what we have been changing. We'll turn off the breakpoints. No, we'll just deactivate the other breakpoints so we still get the login. Close down that server, have a coldish cache. It's not completely cold, but it does behave differently. And we'll run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, did I get it wrong? Oh, sorry. No, sorry. I didn't recompile. Erase that from your mind. What I've been doing is like run without rebuilding, which is a habit of mine, which saves time in some situations and makes you lose time in others. That looks a lot less good than when I showed it with Jmon. So let's turn off the breakpoint debugging, close it down. I've got that if condition. Yeah, I've got the if condition. And then recompile. Off you go to the races. Yeah, bam. One bounce and we're done. 1 second up, 1 second uptime, downtime rather, versus previously 30 seconds downtime. And that's all just from reusing the existing allocated window. So I think that's real nice as a makes sense, not doing any harm. And then the next question is, okay, at what point do we actually want to deallocate these? And does macOS have any macOS specific foibles about like, well, actually, no, there was a reason we wanted a new window each time. .1 shouldn't have a fix, so the text shows up on the window too. Yeah, I was curious about this because looking through streaming live coding would be great too. Just getting back to Hassad's point. Looking through this code here, it's not immediately obvious to me like why that text isn't showing up there, because we're hitting this lazy getter, so the content view controller's view gets initialized, and then we add the container into it, and the container already contains our label. Well, we're putting the label into it. So why hasn't it laid out and rendered that text? Is it the text is the wrong color or what? But I actually looked at the view hierarchy and there was no NS text view in it at all. So I'm curious, looking on main, like what you did with, is it that? Is it just you put a font in there? No, we had that before. Let's go check through the history. Pick up a bunch of fixes. There we go. Dev loading view. Yeah. Okay. Well, this rings a bell because there was some kind of dichotomy between whether you want your window to have a view controller at its base versus a DOM view. I've definitely been here before, but I think that's a total, what I want to say, honest mistake. I wouldn't call that a mistake. That looks right to me. Was it the case that one of these opts into a CA layer and the other one doesn't? You know what? Maybe a big old machine that's been trained on all of humanity's knowledge will have the answer to this. Do I have that window still around? All right, I'll just learning experience. Oh, let's just div. Yeah. All right, I'll figure it out. What is the difference between these two? Okay, so I was saying I can read a human analysis of the problem, but okay, controller aware. So Saad saying I think it's because view controller dot view is nil, but I think I swear I've read into this before, and the moment you access view, it's a lazy getter and it populates itself. But maybe I'm thinking content view. Maybe only that's lazy gets itself. Is one or both of them lazy initialized? Yes. Content view is always non-nil. And this thing can be nil. And just accessing the view can trigger view creation. So that was what I was thinking. Yeah, we accessed it. So it is a mystery. As I say, it doesn't feel like a mistake to me. That is strange. But maybe these helped. Am I an open source dev or is this a personal project? Well, both, yes. I am an open source dev and this is... Oh, sorry. Well, this is personal hobbyist development. This ain't my repo, of course. This is Microsoft's React Native macOS repo. But because I'm trying to solve a problem in another hobby project of mine, it's led me into this particular problem of the app launch being slow and janky. It has motivated me to want it fixed. And Saad said, Saad, of course, lead maintainer of React Native macOS, said, you could contribute. And I thought, fair enough. Maybe I should get my hands dirty. So here we are. Interesting. And then Jamie was saying, you guys streaming live coding would be great TV. I feel live coding is a challenge to stream because there is a tug of war between me wanting my whole screen with like 100 lines visible versus people viewing on phones who need to see like 12 lines maximum. And sometimes, if this was something like web dev, where it was just a question of we have a big picture goal to implement, like we want to make a restaurant menu or something, then I can just get my hands down dirty and I could just be like tappa 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 tappa. Look at all this visual stuff that's changing all the time. But because most of the activities I do in open source are diving into the unknown and get my ass kicked, I have no idea like what progress I'm going to make on a stream. And sometimes like I just I want quiet and thinking time, and a typical day, sometimes a day of hobbyist development for me, or a work day for me, is literally just looking at the screen, saying nothing, scrolling, clicking around, following things, opening lots of tabs, and going, So to actually turn it into something entertaining, I think the only viable way is to not just spend your whole time trying to solve the problem. It's to have some fun, and just chat as much as possible. We've only, by the end of this, we tried a few fun things, we learned a few things, but in the end, all we've actually done is we've only put really 3 lines in here because this is hard stuff, debugging, reverse engineering stuff. It doesn't make good viewing, and you discover a way to fix something as you go along. There's no way to turn it into like a Theo style, almost like sitcom, something to listen to every second of the stream. But slow and fun is no bad thing either. Yeah, Jamon, I like to live code, but my productivity is not great. Yep, fair enough. Fair enough indeed. I mean, I can see the attraction of, I've attended a bunch of tech meetups where people are showing off vibe coding, and it's a bit more of a spectator sport because the machine can twiddle all these things really quickly and make lots of visual changes that seem exciting. And you can say, hey, look, I rolled some auth. I've got a database now and blah, blah, blah. And you don't have the stress of having to set up your linter and make your Git commits and stuff. It's a bit more to view. But I think there is a lack of deep reverse engineering and debugging streams out there. So all I can do is make a bit of content and hope I line up with the hours that people have got to view it. So from user ADGBHDHD, how are AI tools affecting open source projects like React macOS? Are people seeing lots of spam PRs, want to contribute with the help of AI to dive in, but don't want to contribute slot? Jamon going off to bed as well. Thanks for coming along, Jamon. It's been great having you. And yeah, giving me some tailwind to actually get this done. It's nice talking through things with you. Yeah, so to the original question, how are AI tools affecting open source projects? Sard saying, we've been lucky to not get spam PRs, and Sard uses AI to help in some code, including for React Native macOS. Yeah. As for other projects outside of React Native macOS, I don't I don't see people like doing drive-by AI PRs. I haven't seen it. I've seen organizations use things like what's the name? Devin and Bugbot. I mean, we've used them in our organization because they need to be granted access to the Git repo. In theory, you could Git clone a repo and you could do local agents and stuff. Popular repos getting slammed. Maybe. I wonder. The thing is, AI slop is very much a thing to be cautious of in code. Like, as a maintainer, I do not want to be swamped with a deluge of like. It's so quick for AI to write a PR, but the amount you can trust, like how thoroughly it has thought through the data races and the asynchronicity and the scalability and maintainability of the code, you can't really trust it very far. And sometimes you've got files that are like longer than 100 lines. And if an AI chokes just because it can't hold too much context in its head, and you've got a code base like Chromium, where you need to know quite a few thousands of lines of source code, keep that all in your head at once, and change a few things in 3 different places, you can end up having a very low quality PR that's actually just kills more time than it saves. And certainly, what I don't want is for the world to become senior engineers spending their whole time using up like 50% plus of their day trying to keep up with all these like loads of PRs that they just get bombarded with from juniors who've like eyeballed it and said, it seems to be working, but they haven't really thought through all the code paths. What you want is to be designing a feature yourself in your head, mastering the system, and knowing what you want, asking the questions of the AI, saying, you know what, AI, this is what I want, you go do it. Don't say, don't do it the other way around, which is letting the AI write your whole product for you. Because you need to be able to master every part of it, especially like you'll get away with simple stuff, super mainstream, low stakes stuff. But if you've got a system that, I mean, in our case, on our product, we have simultaneous microphone and system audio recording on 4 different platforms: iOS, Android, macOS, and Windows. And every time I throw an audio-related task at an LLM, it's just embarrassing how much it screws up. I cannot describe how bad it is. And so if you're a junior and you don't have the self-defense mechanisms to say, maybe this thing's wrong, it's not good for anyone. Not good for your own education, and certainly not good for the poor senior who has to review it. Catching up with chat, though. I'm really worried for a future where open source is gated off to new people. I really enjoy contributing, connecting with communities. Open source is relatively high trust right now. Has really helped me grow professionally. Yeah. Open source is exciting. I've made so many friends through open source, and it's great to know that if I continue this hobby into my old age, random people who I've never met on the other side of the world will get use out of my hobby. You know, I'm not just what's the word? When you have like a wooden, I'm not just whittling wood for my own satisfaction. Like, I'm doing stuff for my own satisfaction that happens to be useful to other people, and that's very enriching. And it's good for your career as well. I can sense that my activity in the open source world has led to job opportunities and good circumstances for my jobs. And this was kind of a counterbalance I did because my first job was very closed source, because we worked under, that was just the culture. The CEO previously worked somewhere that did weapon defense, military stuff, and so it's like there was no culture from the top of open sourcing stuff, and there's always the sentiment of, well, if we release any code that we release might give our competitors an advantage, and like you can't deny that. From the organization's point of view, you made a great product like Discord or whatever. If you just develop that all in the open and just make that code available for other people to self-host, in one day someone could self-host their own Discord and say, yeah, we've got one too, having done none of the work themselves. So there is a balance between open source and closed source for sure. And I'm really glad that companies like Expo have struck a really good balance of, they do so much stuff in the open, and it's clear that that works as a flywheel that accelerates how much value developers get out of Expo, increases the trust. I really like super open organizations like that. Right, so we were working on this, so we can actually go ahead and make a little PR now, I do think. But the question is, what we've done here is reuse the window, and I just want to check around in the rest of the code to see, are there any consequences of reusing this window before we really open a PR on it. So we need to be spending a lot more time looking at the hide step. And actually, while we're here, I am interested in actually being able to see this message. So I'm going to do a little surgery. I'm going to take all these changes from upstream. I'm just going to shove it in you'll see I'm working on React Native macOS 0.79.0. And when I come around to actually opening the PR, I will obviously cut down to just the necessary changes. But just out of interest, let's catch up with the latest changes and see that message in the little window actually get displayed. So down here in the RCT window sheets thingy, right here, they've got all these constraints. Let's shove those in, and let's take this bit here, content view thingy. There we go. I think that was it. Right, now we recompile, and we will take a closed down Metro bundler, start it up in advance, close this down. Right, and then we'll do a rerun with a compile. And we're going to see if we get that bundling 100% message now visible. Look at that! So as Sard said, we have some upstream changes to look forward to. And this thing, at the start of the stream, this took 30 seconds to launch. And we had no message talking about the bundling state. And now, in the course of this live stream, look at that, 1 second startup from a, I want to say cold Metro cache. It's not actually completely cold, but until a Metro instance has bundled from a given entry point, it's not like fully warm. So it's lukewarm from a lukewarm cache rather than a hot cache. Whereas if you just press the R button right here, like that's what it looks like when you're on a fully hot cache. Okie dokie. So Certainly we want to contribute this back. Now, the next, I'm interested in some things such as, exactly, yeah, you can do a Metro reset cache, but that's not really what I came here for. It's cold. The cache is cold enough for me to reproduce the problem, and not so cold that it makes it slower than it needs to be to iterate on this. So, one of the things I noticed earlier on in this stream, no problem, Sod, was the messages coming through here, they're out of sync. And we had this atomics thing whereby when the shown message comes in here, we've got that is as fresh as a message is ever going to be. And so we store that into atomic, that we've got a contract we've agreed whereby the JS thread is the dude who gets to write into that store. And then on the other side, we treat it as immutable. We only read from it on the main thread. And that seems like, and I'm trying to think about what we can do with this to make sure that by the time our UI thread is given, it gets around to doing its dispatch, how can we make it so that the thing that we write up here as a progress message is as fresh as possible? Because it's what we've got is, if you get updates going from like bundling 0%, bundling 1%, bundling 2%, all that ends up making a flood of queued dispatch asyncs, all of which are stale at this point. And it would be good to say, actually, by the time the JS thread crosses over onto the UI thread, how about we throw away all the ones that are stale? Interesting. How about we throw away all the ones that are stale and just write the very freshest bundle status? Now, start saying, if I can get that nailed down, that might even be worth upstreaming into iOS, which is exciting. Right, I am going to make myself a tea. I will be right back. Okay. Kettle now boiling. So let's see. Now, what's the right way to do this? I think before diving into code, we need to write down the way we want this to behave. And this is a bit difficult when you've got eyes on you. But let's talk it through. So, for example, message comes in from the JS thread with bundling 0%. Two, message comes in from the JS thread with bundling 1%. Actually, we should really represent the bouncing around we were seeing before. So this is what we were actually seeing in practice for Saad's interest. What it actually does is, as Metro crawls the graph, it overestimates and underestimates its progress until finally it's crawled. It finally knows how many modules there are, and then it stabilizes, and then you start getting something like this. Xcode is so bad for RSI that you have to keep correcting it. And then, so correcting the indentation, I mean. So JS thread comes in with these bundling messages. And at some point, let's say here, our first dispatch happens. With bundling 0%. Now, reality is, I think we might actually have reached downloading 100% by the time we reach the main queue. But we are actually working on a Hello World side project. So for really big apps, who knows? So the thing we're trying to solve here is what to do about this. Because those are clearly stale. And if this is higher than that, clearly we want to take the fresher one. But as you can see here, it can also backtrack. And then the other thing you've got to be careful of is the message shape can change, because it can stop being about bundling and it can say, like, downloading 100%. So we're going to handle all these cases. And so instead of assuming that it only monotonically increases, instead, what we should do is do it based on message age, so that we always want to be taking fresh ones. Now, the simplest thing we can do, so how about on one, we schedule a main thread UI update on the main thread. But we don't actually, but we don't actually want to report the stale value bundling 0%. We rather want to report the up-to-date value, which might be bundling 35%. By now. We also want to throw away any stale dispatches rather than queue up rather than strictly dispatching one stale update per show message call. So that summarizes what I keep repeating in my head, but not yet finding a solution to. There will be a solution. It's just very hard to think on stream. And it's also very hard to sketch things out in Objective-C rather than JavaScript, which is my native language, as it were. Just grab my tea. Okie dokie. T equipped, shedding viewers. Let's see where we are then. And it's crossed into dark mode in the time I went to go and grab my tea. That is fun. Right. So during our main thread dispatches, we want a way to bail out before making any UI mutations if they're no longer needed. But also during our show message calls on the JS thread, we want a way to avoid dispatching to the main thread altogether when it makes sense to do so. So, what solves all of these requirements? This last one is tricky. I'm not sure we can even satisfy the last one, because the last one, because it takes a certain amount of time to move over from the JS thread to the main thread, and that means that the main thread will always be lagging behind. So our JS thread is never going to be able to avoid dispatching to the main thread unnecessarily, because it's at the front of the line, basically, if that makes any sense. Maybe I'm explaining that poorly. But certainly this one, we should be able to do something about that. How can we decide UI mutations are no longer needed? Age. We can do this based on age of message. If there is a newer message in latest message received, then always show this message received. And no op if we're already rendering if matches latest message received. And the window is still visible. Something like that. But one of the problem I was having is the latest message received doesn't quite make sense to me. It was kind of always locked on. We never really saw it updating. It picked a value and then never changed. I kind of thought it would be like there'd be a lag period. which just feels incorrect. I want to put a timestamp alongside these things. So the thing is, console logging isn't. There's a limit to debugging things by using console logs because depending on the threading model of the console log, if the console log locks to make sure that messages from the JS thread and the main thread are in perfect sequence as to when they happened, you can see your app slowing down and juddering to deliver the logs. But if you have like a log stream that is that doesn't bother about keeping things in chronological sequence, like a non-locking one, it's a bit more useful in this kind of case. But then you've got a question of, okay, well, when did that thing actually happen? So what I want is a timestamp, and I'm just hoping that grabbing the timestamp is not an expensive action. But yeah, because I feel a bit, I've got unanswered questions, I want to include a timestamp with these things. So just so I remember the things I'm actually going to PR to Saad, I'm just going to screenshot this little bit here. This is the bit we came for. There we go. Maybe just grab that. Right, that's our PR. And now I will get contributing. And now I'll get to debugging. So, oh, date. That's exactly what we want. Where does that get used? Nowhere. What? How about we be a little cheeky? Ah, no, I'll just shove it into the message itself. That'll be... So... message equals at thingy. I think we need to do ns format string. ns format string. ns string. String with format. How do you do this? It's like percent at, or it's at something. I can never remember C format strings. Percent at. I got it right first time. Great. Wow. All right. Percent at. It's so memorable. We should do another percent at, and then we'll do our ns date, and then can we have a UTF? Or do we have to do that as a UTF-8 string? Followed by message. Date. String. How do you get a string out of this thing? Debug description? Now? Oh, I don't know what we do here. So that's the static method date. No, that's an instance. Oh, yeah. It vends us an instance. So it should give us a date. And then with a date, how do we actually get string out of this thing? Maybe just description? Fine, we'll go with description. Why not? Where were we? Back, description. See how that goes? Right, and now we'll get a sense of the timing of these things. Kill the app. Start again, recompile. I didn't see any of that. That was too fast. Now we have a new problem. Good night, Sard. Been nice having you. Oh. UI API. Can't be good. Let's see. Message. How about we nslog this? String with format, and I want to see sort of when these things happen on the JS thread versus the main thread. So we no longer need date because that's actually part of the date. Oh, part of the message. So JS thread. That's right, our first log. And then our second log, we're no longer going to use breakpoint debug logging because I'm confused about the results I'm getting from latest message received. So we'll change this to main thread. And it's still, we're still capturing we need a new date. So at and it's the description, and it's percent at, is it? Percent at. Format string is not string literal. So we need what? UTF-8 string? What is your problem? What do I need to import to get nslog? Do I have RCTlog? What's wrong with that? You can't take a UTF-8 string because it is a char star. Fine. I don't know what the normal way is to... No, that sucks. That's horrible. Well, we'll bear with it. Objective-C for you. Right. Stop it. What we got? All right. Let's check out those logs, and we will focus on filter, debug, info, whatever. Okay. Okay. I could just search on thread, and that seems to... I really want to get that thing out of the way. That's really killing my buzz. But let's see the timing of all these things somehow. got bundling, and we never get to the word downloading, do we? Is there any downloading in here? Fine, it's all bundling. That's really interesting. It reaches 92% bundling on the JS thread before it even gets the first main thread dispatch. And that is all still in under the course of a second. But yeah, you get all the way from 0 to 92% in the time it takes to cross threads. That kind of shows how costly a thread hop is. All right. I need milliseconds on this. Let's copy all of that for interest. Let's ask ChatGPT to generate a better timestamp for us. Give me a timestamp that includes milliseconds. Objective-C. Done. Lovely. That sucks. As expected. Fine. We'll just have to do this. Put that in a method for me. Very cool. I like how it reuses a formatter. That was something I was going to ask. Right. Timestamps message, please. I'll take this message. That seems to be what I want. Why not use one of the CLI agents? Because I'm a dinosaur. I understand how to use ChatGPT. There's like this thing up here. I use that from time to time, the coding assistant. Claude Code Codex. Claude, if this were a web project, I would feel a lot more comfortable about using Claude Code because it's a fork of VS Code to my understanding. But I've got to operate inside Xcode. So one way or another, I'm going to be copy pasting from one place to another. Now, of course, yeah, they've got that thing on the sidebar. How about it just gives me a timestamp? Gives me the date string rather than. In fact, you know, I can do that myself. Let's just return that timestamp. I'm not that bad at coding. I hate that indentation, and you don't have to give me a message. Okay. Timestamp. Please. We just do time. I think that doesn't clash with anything. So, where did I have the date? How do you? What is it? Self timestamp? No, it is RCTDevLoadingView timestamp. Yes, I understand Objective-C. That is good news for me. And then that's fine. And then over here we shall have another one of those, and put that in the right position. You're saying, oh, I'm saying you can use Xcode as an IDE, but just write prompts in the terminal. I'm trying to remember. I've never used AI through the terminal. I've used like Whisper and stuff through the terminal, which is still LLMs on the terminal. It's a point. I think it's a valid point, but to me, one text box is as good as another. I assume you get better syntax highlighting by using the ChatGPT website for it. So I didn't mean to backseat code, but this is the whole point of the stream. It's good to have engagement, and I think it's fascinating to see how other people code and what everyone's setups are. Because, like for example, I went for years and years before I knew how to do multi-line editing, this kind of thing. But then the moment I saw my brother doing it, it was kind of life-changing to me. And then the moment I saw someone do like moving windows using just their keyboard, that was mind-blowing. And I thought I have to get me some of that. So yeah, sometimes you don't know what you're missing out on. And we'll all have some kind of dinosaur things in our workflow. And some things we feel like that's something I'm open to changing, and other things just like, you know what? A few more clicks, I'll survive. What's this? Do you regularly stream? Not on a like predictable schedule. I think on Wednesdays / weekends is the days to expect to stream, if at all it's going to happen. But it's not predictable by any means. I do try to line up with time zones where America will be awake, because I'm working on React Native, and that's where you'll find a lot of viewers for that kind of content. But because I'm in Japan, it is actually quite hard to line up with other time zones at a time that's convenient for me. So yeah, I feel like streaming is a lot of work, but like the annoying thing is the best time to catch the American crowd is when it's like the loveliest time outside with the sun high in the sky. So that's kind of sad on my side. But at the same time, having the stream without viewers is also sad. And I think it was great that two people who are some of the biggest users and developers of React Native macOS were able to attend just an hour ago. So very chuffed with that. That's exactly why I schedule it at those kind of times. Righty. So I stop this, and now I have proper timestamps. Save it up. Start. And run. Day and night difference. yeah. It's true. Yeah. So Japan, like right. Exactly. It's just hit sunset here in Japan, 5 p.m. Whereas Jamon and Sard, who are wherever they are in the US, I don't know. My geography is not good enough to immediately say West Coast or East Coast. Yeah, they're kind of tucking into bed at this point. So, and that is, there's a heck of a lot of React Native and Expo developers in San Francisco, of course, which I can line up with from Japan side until about 2 p.m. or so. Japan side. about 5 p.m. Japan side is kind of pushing it. Everyone's going to bed by then. But yeah, I mean, to throw the question back in your direction, sort of like, what possesses you to watch a coding stream like this with potentially quite small text size, not much visual activity happening on stream, not a laugh a minute or anything, and it's not really obvious what the aim of the stream is here, because it's very, very specialist stuff. Like, there's not many people using React Native macOS, and certainly not many people digging around in internals. So I'm curious how you came across the screen, and what possessed you to hang around so long. So back to the question of how long things take. Look at that. In the course of 1 millisecond, Metro bundling goes all the way to 58% on the JS thread. And so at 334 is the point at which we would have dispatched to the UI thread. And look at that. It takes 9 milliseconds to hop from the JS thread to the main thread. And by then, that message bundling naught is already stale. In fact, it's so stale that what I really should be printing is bundling 59. And that's quite fascinating. Computers go brr, but computers go brr on the current thread. And actually moving from thread to thread is very, very expensive. Like 9 milliseconds of computer time is big. I never knew it was quite that much, but it doesn't surprise me, I suppose. And then there's the concept of, there's a difference between messaging between processes and messaging between threads of the same, I assume, same process. There's a question. I need to know my computer architecture. Is it a process that spins up threads, or is it a process that asks to be put onto a thread and it's actually the operating system that spins up threads? There's a question. But, okay. So we come in onto the main thread, and by this time we want to be actually showing bundling 59. I just like to have it on in another tab. I like passively consuming technical content, learning a thing or two. For example, didn't know React Native macOS was a thing. Now I can look at the history and why. Exactly, yeah. React Native macOS is very niche, and it's a crying shame that not as many people really know about it as they should. Like, the amount of work that has gone into this technical marvel. It's a miracle that we can use JavaScript to declaratively express through React an app kit, 38-year-old, if you include like the next step history. This is as old as it gets, really, in terms of computing legacy. And we can render that today in JavaScript and React. But very few people use it. And because of that, the ecosystem is so small that it's actually kind of a pain to use. There's a very small set of core features that it gives you for free, and then the rest you're on your own. So when I was using React Native macOS on my own industry app, I had to invent from scratch auth. And also, this was more problem for, safe area. I had to implement that. I said safe area propagation and detection and notification, that kind of thing. And then the big one was for React Native Windows, which is even more of a black sheep. barely anyone using that. That I had to implement auth and also file system. That sucked. Yep, thorny path, and neither of them have modal. Found me through Twitter. Excellent. So that tweet actually reached ears. Let's actually see. Oh, I got 10 notifications. Oh, checking out these Twitter notifications. Let's see. All right, let's get back to this. So I feel my head is so stuck on this. Let's grab all these. So in a situation like this, yeah, we need to get back to the fact that this thing I cobbled together at the start of the stream, which was to pull out the latest message shown and received. It didn't seem to be working. It was giving something, it was giving a value that didn't make sense to me. So I'm going to try doing that through nslog rather than debug, the LLDB debug, and see if that just works better. Latest message received is %at, and then at the end of this we shall show a latest message received. Right, here goes nothing. Close it up. Oh, get it in time. Glad I am. Oh, what did it hit? Did we do an unsafe thread access? What's going on? Look at that. We must have done, it must be like not thread safe. Look at that. But we atomic loaded it. Oh, no, this is more percent convert. Right, go AI. Fix it. I'm sure there's a commas in the wrong place. Just go fix it. Oh yeah, I think I can see that. That square bracket needs to be out here. Let's burn lots of computing power like making that happen. I already know. Come on, that just needs to be moved there. Come on, you can do it. I don't. And has it applied it? I don't think it's applied it. So yeah, I don't want to just do it. I don't understand how to use this thing. So in the end, you didn't apply anything. You were suggesting to do it like this. Oh, interesting. We don't even need NSString with format. NSLog, kind of does the same thing. That's cool. You know what? I learned something, even if it didn't apply it. I mean, it says, I have fixed this by changing the line, and then it just doesn't do it there. And it says proposal, but you can't accept it anyway. You can only undo it. So that was thumbs up. No, come on, man. No way. Who's got time for that? Right. Close it up. So get that going and compile. But yeah, just checking it. Okay, so both of you found me through Twitter. Just watching for chill vibes. I'm very pleased if this qualifies as chill vibes. I'm also a fan of chill vibes. Right, so look at that. Latest message received is stuck on 95%. Now, that's the thing that for the last hour has been on my mind. It's like, why doesn't that update? And then there's your answer. It's because 95% is correct. That's how far ahead it is. And then we never get So what I'm wondering is, yeah, we never get 100%. Very, very cool. So this is something I can upstream to iOS, as Saad said. Oh, I'm so proud of that. Okay. And just one last cherry on top. If latest message received, so I want to make sure that it bails out. If it's already rendered that latest message received, we can get out of here. If latest message received is equal to what exactly? Latest message shown, but okay, I'm allowed to both read and write this because equal matches. How do you do string comparisons in Objective-C? RCTDevLoadingView. How do you do string equality checks in Objective-C? I don't know if you have to use like equals or whether you can use the Objective-C method dispatch and say, yeah, because that would be my intuition. Why not? Yeah, right. So that's what I was beginning to write out. Is equal to string. Self dash latest message shown. Return. Oh. In a previous dispatch. No op. Right, that should help. But what would help even more is if we don't dispatch in the first place. And I have just realized how we might go about doing that. Close that up. No, we can't really avoid it. Because if the JS thread is on 88, so just thinking this through, this leads to a dispatch, this leads to a dispatch, this leads to a dispatch. So you've already queued up about 95 main thread dispatches. And by the time we get to the dispatch queue, we're no longer interested in the first 94 of these. So that's what we need. If the dispatched hasn't been run yet, cancel it. No. Maybe. Hang on. Ideally, I mean, I always want to avoid using debouncing, if at all possible, because if you want to get the smoothest possible progress bar, you really don't want to skip on anything. So what's the smart one? We only want to get rid of the stale values. not just reduce the total number of values coming through. Now, of course, we can know up here just fine, but the question is, how expensive is it to actually do the operation below anyway? Because, well, certainly on iOS they show the date, and any access to a date, I think, is not zero cost. So it would save that. Oh, would you look at that? iOS is also needlessly remaking Windows. That feels wrong. That feels real wrong. Don't tell me iOS has a memory leak as well. How did we never catch this? There is a question. Shall we just jump into the React Native code base and see how they handle this as of the current commit? React core modules. RCTDevLoadingView. Yeah, that's so strange. They got the same bug. It's just cheaper on UIKit to create a new. So you grab your key window. That's insane. No way did they miss this. I am so curious now. We could actually, an easy way to test this is just build the iOS. Oh, did I remove the iOS target? Oh, we got the iOS target. Does this work? Right. Let's go in here and build for iOS instead. Oh, that's fun. We could do it from macOS Catalyst, but actually on this occasion, just a simulator will do me. Thank you very much. iPhone 16, which one are we feeling? 20 version, iOS 26.1, I think. Oh, what, 26.0, at least that's labeled. No, this means latest. Okay, 16, off we go. What is your problem? Oh, did I delete that? I might have deleted that. Question, is there any issue filed? I should look into it, but my spidey senses suspect no. So why no info.plist? We've got one right there. rnm prebuild / macOS. Why is it looking for macOS? / macOS / iOS. rnm prebuild / macOS / rnm prebuild -myo. Well, that's definitely wrong. The thing that worries me there is that probably means quite a few things are wrong. But go into here, check out the build settings, info.plist. Where is it looking for it? Yeah, no, that is the wrong thing. But this, in the first place, this thing, that scheme. Well, let's fix this one while we're here. All right, so it was trying to find it where exactly? Ugh, I hate Xcode. Right. rnm prebuild / macOS. So we actually need to dig out that. / iOS / rnm prebuilds. Something like that. And then you've got no defined symbol for main. That looks. Where are you getting your main from? Principal class NS applic. Well, that won't be help. Would help if rnm prebuilds was actually in the Xcode project. Principal. Where's the entry point? Main. App delegate. You've got an app delegate and everything. Oh, that's weird. Is that how? Is that always how Swift has done it? That doesn't look familiar. Fine. I guess that's how Swift does it. But it says it can't find. Take me there. Come on. Right. Build logs. Ugh. Fine. Let's see if AI can get to the bottom of it. The entry point is app delegate. /ios / rnm prebuilds / app delegate.swift. That's it. That's all we're gonna get. Fine. Okay. I guess building an iOS project from a React Native macOS app is not a winning formula. That's probably too much to ask for. So let's go into my Git UI, discard that little change I did there because that's for nothing. Okie dokie. Right, but that is a very good question. I'd be interested in issues regarding RCTDevLoadingView. Closed and open. There's 27 all time. Window. No one talking about that. Interferes with UI seems relevant, but 2015 does not. 2015 is far too long ago to bother with. Yeah, it's never been reported. That is very interesting. Okay, well, let's take... Yeah, right? AI integration is just like, let's burn some tokens and then do nothing. Oh, look, conversation has reached the maximum supported length. That's why. Doesn't feel like it. That was a brand new conversation. Well, let's... Let's work out. I'm trying to find like a iOS project from before that I've just got hanging around, because I'd rather... Well, we could just make a brand new one. Let's just make a brand new one somewhere. I hate doing this. Right, CD into my Git folder, and we will do a create expo. No, actually, let's do a React Native Community CLI one. There we go. That's just the command we need. We're going to initialize a dev loading view. Just right here. We're going to see if it has the same memory leak kind of issue, or window leak issue on iOS. Do you want to install CocoaPods now? I don't think I'm going to be changing it, so yes, please. That's exactly what I want to do. It's so weird starting a new iOS project with just one command and not having to do loads and loads of follow-up work to get React Native macOS working or get React Native macOS integrated with Expo. Just like one single CLI command on the happiest of all paths. It's quite liberating. One of the things I'd love is to get that CocoaPods installation time down. It's clearly doing work. At some point, that long curl is probably going to be the download of Hermes. Although it was quite a short one, so maybe it's just cloning a repo there. Right, we've got a repo. So it's ready to go. Let's just open up Visual Studio Code on DevLoadingView test. What am I going to do with code? I'm actually not going to use that. So we're going to open DevLoadingView test /ios / the XC workspace. Put that over there. And then we'll CD into that same place. And we'll actually run this time Metro server from there. Npm starts. This time we shall run on the latest iPhone simulator, and we'll put some. Let's get this building while I go hunt down the React. Where was this thing? Go back to macOS. Development pods. Right. React. React Core or React Common? DevLoadingView. That was easy. And quickly get a breakpoint in. Come on, before it shows it. Bang! Just in the nick of time before it built. I think what I wanted to do was before it finally calls hide, I want to see how many windows it has accumulated in the window graph. We might as well do a edit breakpoint, grab that log message, and put it here. And we don't have latest message. We do have this. Right, sweet. Automatically continue. There we go. I'm glad I started compiling before I set all that up, because that would have been such a waste of time otherwise. So we are going to see how many times we run into this dispatch async. And we might as well also see like edit breakpoint, JS message. Why not? And continue. Yes, made it in time. Right, this should be good. Close that up. And of course, it's still got to start up the simulator. Where is that thing? There we are. It's here. I find it harder to see the glassy logo for the simulator nowadays. It'll show up when it's ready. That's the splash screen rather than the anything else. All right, moment of truth. Does this memory leak exist on iOS as well as macOS? Right, we finally reached the hide call. I am surprised we didn't ever hit the show message. Have they disabled this? The dev loading view or something? I mean, we see downloading 100%. Right, fine. Into the view hierarchy. Let's see what we can learn. Any day now. Xcode, man. To see how... can you imagine, like, trying to develop liquid glass for the new iOS and macOS systems when it takes this long to attach a debugger to the view hierarchy. This is disgraceful. And you wonder why people like prefer web dev. Heck, I feel like I should use this time to put another T on. Come on. Who has faith that this will actually work? Like, that we'll actually ever see this view graph? Oh, I think I saw something change up there. Well, oh, right. So that explains why we didn't see any of those debug logs. It couldn't parse. I must have screwed something up in there. This is a shame. I'm gonna, while this thing loads, I am gonna take the opportunity to go to, oh, something changed. Oh no, it's just changing focus. Yeah, it's still loading. I'm gonna take this opportunity to go to the toilet as it's been a while. Be right back. Enjoy watching that spinner. It is still going. It's still going. That's all right. I really wanted to see that view graph, but step, play, whatever, just get this thing going again. Right, so I'm gonna have to fix the breakpoint logs because that's gonna be our only visibility into the view hierarchy at this point, into how things are going. So what was I doing wrong here? So this was it wasn't complaining about this, right? It was complaining about the other one. Yeah. Captured net. Oh, that's not a condition. Add action. It's going to be a debugger command. No, log message. Okay. Captured message. Where are we? This is main thread. Grab that and then edit this, and this is going to be capture message. With message doesn't make sense. Oh, and that needs to be a. It's not a condition. It is a log message, and we automatically continue evaluation. That's a log message. Okie dokie. And right. So we have to kill this server and then rerun this without recompiling. Okay. Hopefully healthier now. Debug view hierarchy. Yes, we're in. We are in. And look at that. Only one UI window. So it's way healthier than the macOS one, which indicates something upstream is calling that thing less frequently. Or maybe because we haven't hit any show message yet. Yeah, fine. Okay. We never got a show message in the first place. Let us try clicking reload. Interesting. I was hitting that on React Native macOS and I was wondering what was going on. So anytime you click reload, I was always hitting into this. I didn't know this is happening on upstream, or on the equivalent iOS. That is very interesting. I will save a screenshot of that and think about that another day. How curious. Right, but I think this comes down to a bit of I want to say race condition. Try again. Fresh Metro server. Rerun the app. Would you look at that? So we've had now a healthy startup, lots of messages from the JS thread saying bundling, 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 bundling. Then the main thread catches up, gets all those messages late, and then you click here into the view hierarchy. And we have two UI windows, but not. We haven't spawned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's good. I wonder how they figured out how they got it to reuse windows, or whether in UIKit, if you no longer hold on to a reference to a UI window, it goes and removes itself from the view graph, the UI window scene for you, kind of like Arc. Well. Okay, so although there's a clear, I want to say a clear memory leak, but it's clearly not very dramatic, whatever it is, at least it's not showing up in the view hierarchy. Okay, well, So what we've learned is anything we can fix on the macOS side would be worth fixing on the iOS side, but it's not really suffering from remaking these windows each time. Now, I almost wonder, it's private code, so we can't ever be sure. I wonder if it like implicitly reuses an existing window if you say init with scene. Who knows? let's just see like where else it acts on self window. Yeah, it's not until the hide method that self window is nilled out. So I think the reason it was going okay in iOS was just UIKit was protecting them more than AppKit was, using like reference counting. So when your reference counts falls to 0, it just decides release the memory, and of course before doing that, remove me from the Windows scene, or something like that is what I expect is happening. Right, I feel like some ice cream at this point, and quite honestly, I think I've been streaming for a while. I might as well call it a good session. I think I need to sort out dinner and stuff. But yeah, thank you everyone for persevering with a long stream of investigating. I'm happy we discovered some things. Not only discovered some root causes, but found some fixes. And even discovered some things that apply both to React Native macOS and React Native iOS. It just goes to show code that was written potentially a long time ago has been battle tested by thousands, maybe more than that, users every day, and written by real talented people. Even that, on a hot path, can still have unexpected bugs in it. So there is low-hanging fruit everywhere. Yeah, assume any problem can be solved, and that you can bring something to the table. Alrighty, and that concludes it. Thank you everyone for coming along. Good game, well played.